Hello everybody, Megastormfire here. Welcome to a new video. This will be a sort of review video for me, in my honest opinion, on two different types of controllers. We've got the typical PS4 controller, which if I turn it on and I have it bound to Steam. Hello, please turn on. So we got the normal PS4 controller here, one I normally play Tekken with on the PS4. But we've also got the fight stick. So I won't have images up on the screen, so if you want any images of the PS4 controller or fight stick for any weird reason, feel free to go ahead and look this up. But I just want to give my honest thoughts on the fight stick versus the PS4 controller, which one's better, which one's worse. Especially for a game like Tekken, which definitely has its directional inputs, because I know for a fact King's move list got something like this. So if we just do that, something like that. So yeah, let's just talk about it. So something I want to start with is the good and the controller I'm more used to. So let's start with the PS4 controller. Put the fight stick down and whip out the good old PS4 controller. Now the nice thing about PS4 controllers is two areas to move with. You got the D-pad and you got the actual stick. So I prefer to use the D-pad. I'm able to tap easier. But combos are definitely a little bit harder. The wrong input. So yeah. For the PS4 controller, I feel like this controller is probably one of the more natural ones. Or natural feeling ones for a game like Tekken. Because there's only 4 attack buttons. And, okay, I guess we're just gonna do that one forever. But, button presses like 2 and 3, and 1 and 4. If you don't have them pre-bound, I have them pre-bound to both the triggers. But if you don't have them pre-bound, they can get a little bit more difficult. So I try to do it. I mean, I can do it, but it's just needlessly annoying to try and do it, because I'll get that. And I have to hold the controller in weird positions to get what I want to go out. So just as a little example of me failing a grab. But honestly, if you don't have a fight stick, I feel like PS4 controllers might be a little bit better for a game like Tekken 7. But honestly, I feel like, again, it's down to personal preference. If you want to have more of the classical or fight stick feel, I'll save that for when I'm done with it. But again, the nice thing about the PS4 controllers is button presses like 1 and 2. Way easier. Or it can be fairly easy if you've practiced it a little bit. So you can... You got all these different stuff there. I would definitely say with a thing like a PS4 controller, directional inputs are a little bit harder. But again, you might just need to practice it. I know I can still use some practice on it. Let's go ahead and turn off Rage. So yeah. In short, PS4 controller is good. It's good for being able to get your rage out quickly because you can just tap right bumper. I mean, it's right next to your attack buttons. Left bumper is good so you can hold it and get your stuff out. So you need a combo like that. Boom, you can do that, or you can do this. If I can get it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm struggling. Okay, yeah. So motion inputs are definitely a little bit harder than on the PS4 controller and the fight stick. Speaking of which, fight stick time. Alright. So, the biggest difference being, while there is only one directional movement option, and while it is a little bit harder to get used to, the buttons makes directional inputs a whole lot easier. So you can do. That's a bad example. Also, 2 and 3 inputs are way easier. Yeah, so this input's a lot easier. All the inputs are a whole lot easier. And then again, I have stuff mapped to triggers. I'm not weird. So yeah, we got all of that stuff good and down. Honestly, I feel like it's down to personal preference. Do you want all your attacks to be right next to each other and much easier to memorize? If so, I would say stick with the PS4 controller. But if you want all your buttons just to be all over the place, and for movement to take a little bit more time getting used to, since it's not as easy to get used to on the fight stick if you haven't been playing with it for a while, then feel free to use the fight stick. Personally speaking, I've used a controller similar to PS4 controller for almost all of my time of gaming. I've only had the fight stick for probably a little bit less than a month, if not a month. So I haven't gotten fully used to it yet. So to recap, it depends on what you want. If you want easier notation, reading, and easier transferring of knowledge while having a little bit of a harder time doing motion inputs, then feel free to rock the controller, PS4 controller, though. You can also use fight stick. It's not worse. But there's another character I want to go over that's good for both controllers. I feel like could be good. That is Akuma. So I'm going to Mishima Dojo and I'll show off Akuma, because his stuff's a little bit more complicated on the fight stick than not. So, yeah, so I'm not as used to the fight stick, keep in mind, so combos like this one's gonna be a little bit more difficult for me. But still, I mean, Akuma's damage is just cracked. Yeah, so you can still get combos out with Akuma on the fight stick. I feel like with Akuma, actually, if you know what you're doing on the PS4 controller, you've practiced it enough. I feel like it would be way easier. I feel like it's easy to use both controllers either way, just depending on what you're using. If you fully mastered your character, because that was my fight stick. And now, as you can hear, PS4 controller. One more used to. So we can do. Crap. Crap. No, we're just gonna give up on the jumping. It does get a little bit more complicated when it comes to multi-button presses. So I'm pressing both kick buttons to get an amplified wing kick, but I'm not getting an amplified tattoo, but I'm not getting it. Of course, I could just do this. Yeah. So I think it just depends on what's more comfortable and what you feel like would be better. If I go to my controller setup, I can just change the triggers to something like this and this. Or rather, I feel like, yeah. Something like that. So then I can just do either that or... So then I can do this combo easier. Crap. Boom. So yeah, it depends on what you're willing to do. Personally, I like to have binds on here and here because of throws of king and just throws in general. So it depends on your personal preference. Personally, for me, I would recommend, if you don't want to buy a fight stick, if you don't want to buy a high-end fight stick, definitely just use a PS4 controller if you have one, or use whatever you got. PS4 controller works pretty well, especially for a game like Tekken. But if you do want to buy a fight stick, then I would definitely recommend it. Just get all. Now it's going to take some time to get used to it if you're not used to a fight stick. I know some people are going to be asking about the keyboard, so I'm trying to get used to the keyboard here. Don't. Oh wow, that's actually a little bit better than I thought. Of course, I don't know how to reset on the keyboard, so if you're willing to put up with the keyboard, then I could see this being a viable option. That's not it. That's not it. What's this? Yeah, it was that. Alright. So I just have to reset. So, you could do. Yeah, so personally for me, I would recommend you actually using an actual controller for this. It makes life so much easier. If I were to boil it down though, control and movement, if we're just going off no experience, I think the DualShock PS4 controller wins. The D-pad and analog stick feel much more natural, personally to me, than would feel a whole lot more natural, I feel like, to newcomers, since you have two different movement options you can use, and it's a little bit more forgiving. Whereas the fight stick only has one movement option. Though, if you're willing to put in way more time into a game, I would definitely recommend using the fight stick. Fight stick, well, it does do some things not as well as a PS4 controller. Definitely does a lot right. So. Hopefully this video is a little bit helpful. I'll go ahead and turn on the volume. Let's see, is my voice still being heard? Yes. Okay, yeah. So, all in all, after all that's said and done, it's hard to. It depends. In an online match setting, you want the controller that feels most natural to you. So, I think it's down to how it feels. Do you think a PS4 controller feels more natural to you? Does it feel better in your hands? If so, then use that. Does a fight stick feel better for you? Then use that. Now, some games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'd probably end up using a fight stick because I'm more used to playing that game with a fight stick. Game like SF Third Strike, I'd probably end up playing with a fight stick. Street Fighter in general, play with a fight stick. Aside from that, I play most other games with the DualShock because I'm just more comfortable with that. Again, it's mostly just down to personal preference, so keep in mind I do have less time with the fight stick than I do with the DualShock, but would definitely recommend using a DualShock if you have more experience with that. And pairing it with a PC is easy, so if you want to use it on PC, go ahead and do that. The winner here of this set of controllers, I feel like I've said this probably multiple times already, but it's tied. Again, it's solely down to what it feels like. Do you want a controller that's bigger, heavier, but it gives you easier inputs and gets all your buttons just in one place so you can use it like a keyboard while still having a movement stick? Or would you rather have a movement stick and your buttons be more diverse, but have it feel a little bit more natural, and with one finger, hit it with like one, maybe two fingers? That's what it comes down to. Maybe you want to use one finger for most of your attacks, and I would recommend using the PS4 controller, unless you're weird on looking at your controller and pointing, doing it with your index finger, or primary finger for some reason, and not using your thumb. Weirdo. I should replace that. Use your thumb, not your index finger or primary finger, any other finger for your main four attacks, but yeah. The triggers definitely feel a little bit better, but I mean, I would recommend using the triggers for both kicks and both punches instead of punch a kick and punch a kick. So, all in all, I'm going to say this again. I've said it a million times before. I'll say it again. It's down to personal preference and what feels best to you. Thank you all so very much for watching. Hopefully you guys like this Tekken video. If you guys like the Tekken content, I will definitely keep it up. I would also like to know if you guys enjoyed the Genshin content. I want to know what you guys are enjoying. I might post some Dragon Ball FighterZ. I might post some more Heritage. I might post some more actual stuff. This is I want to make a small video talking about controllers because me and Zulitep were talking, and it was like, hey, a good video idea would be compare controllers. So I was like, oh my lord, you're right. Compare controllers would be a good idea. So, down to personal preference. This is Mega Stormfire signing out. Goodbye.